to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it. Have you ever wondered why under pressure, your leadership style shifts? Maybe you take control, maybe you shut down, or maybe you start firefighting. Well, what if those insights are not just random, but part of a deeper pattern that you've never been taught to recognize? And mastering it could actually change the way you lead forever. So today, we have a very interesting guest here on the show, and we're going to be talking about a topic that might be a little bit off track, but actually very much related to the world of leadership and management. Now, I'm here on the show with my really good friend, Rory Kilmartin. Rory is a relationship researcher and founder of the highly acclaimed Archetypal Relationship Academy. He has dedicated years and years of research in discovering 4 relationship archetypes and their hidden styles and their leadership styles and their pattern interrupts and the power dynamics that arise from these archetypes. We're going to be talking a little bit about human relationships, but more importantly, how we can improve our leadership, our communication, how we understand human beings. And I'm going to be really kind of getting a better understanding of these archetypes and how they can apply in your business and your leadership. So without further ado, Rory, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's great to be here.
Great to be here. And it's interesting because, I mean, we got introduced by our good friend, Paul Mahoney. Paul's a great guy, isn't he?
Fantastic.
How do you know Paul, by the way?
Paul and I shared a stage about 3 years ago, and a mutual friend of ours let him know that he should, if he could at all possibly listen to my presentation, that he should do that. So he very wisely did, and we got talking afterwards, and then he came and discovered my work, and now he's very happy to tell every man and his dog about the work I do. So I'm very grateful to have him as a friend.
Love it. Yeah, Paul's a great guy. I've known him for quite a number of years. And for you guys that don't know who Paul Mahoney is, I mean, he's a social media expert. We've done various collaborations actually with Paul, Rory, over the years. And hopefully he's going to be coming back on the show very shortly. So we're going to have some great conversations, my friend. I'm really looking forward to it. Can you give us a little bit more context around what got you curious about patterns in human relationships and stuff like that? You've dedicated amount of years in this, call it niche or obsession or whatever you want to call it. I'd love to know where that came from.
Yeah. It went all the way back to when I was around the age of 12 is my first memory. And I witnessed people who said they loved each other being cruel to each other in the name of love. And my little gentle soul said, my brain was like, something's terribly wrong. Because I was old enough to have a sense of what love is and what love isn't. And for those two things, for cruelty to be expressed in the name of love, I found that, like something's dreadfully wrong. And I just made this decision one day, which is I'm never going to do that to the person I love. Like it was just this decision I made. And unbeknownst to me in that moment, I opened up this filing cabinet in my mind, and this lifelong passion, fascination, and curiosity, ultimately an obsession, to figure out human relationships began, I believe, that day. I believe I made that decision with all of my mind in a similar way that some people, the origin story of Anna Wintour is fascinating. I don't know if you know it. She came home from school with homework and said, the homework was, what are you going to do when you're old? And her father, who she just saw as this hugely, hugely important man, just wrote editor of Vogue New York. She was 12. So sometimes we make up our minds with our full mind. And I think that's what I did that day. And my passion has never waned in any way, shape, or form. Here I am 39 years later.
That's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, I always find people that there's normally a catalyst or a trigger as to why people do something, whether it be out of fear, whether it be out of pain or whatever it is. But it seems like you did it out of an experience, I guess, in a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm naturally inclined for relatedness. My archetypal nature is one that cares about interconnectivity and relatedness. So when I saw such a stark breakdown in what is my core agenda,
Mm.
I had to figure it out. And here I am figuring it out. So that's where it all began.
And still figuring out, I guess, because it's a learning game, right? You learn
Yeah.
all the time, right? I mean, I'm obsessed with human psychology. I studied it, and including sports psychology, when I was at university, and still to this day question. And I'm thinking, why is it that people think the way that they do? I mean, obviously you have more of a specific type of niche in the whole relationship side of stuff, but I don't know. I find the whole thing fascinating personally.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Very good. So talk to me a little bit about for someone that's kind of never heard of the whole kind of relationship archetypes. What does it mean? Let's get some context around that.
Okay, great. Let's start with the absolute basic introductory concepts for those of you that are listening and you'd like to know the basics. What is the word archetype? Carl Jung described an archetype as an identical psychic structure common to all. I have a much simpler definition, which is available to me in this age, which is an archetype is another word for operating system.
Yes.
It's the operating system of human beings. And it would occur like all humans are iPhones. And we have one operating system. That is misleading.
Mm-hmm.
We all look like human beings. You and I look like human beings. Neither of us is a donkey or a sloth or a baboon. We're both humans, right? It's pretty fairly obvious, right? And therefore, we would assume that we have the same operating system. And that is the beginning of the confusion. There are four very clearly observable, but hidden in plain sight, human operating systems. And technically, all four of them are inside us. But that is also misleading if that's what you've been led to believe. What's more accurate is, in a similar way that 10% of humans are born left-handed, 1% are born with traits of psychopathy, we're roughly 50-50 biological sex for purpose of reproduction. There's this idea of, in game theory, which is the evolutionary stable ratio. Evolution in nature understands the best stable ratio of things. We don't exactly know why 10% of humans are left-handed, but it's an accident of birth. In a similar way, an accident of birth is our archetypal nature. And the key step is to understand we're born with a very, very strong leaning in one direction. And then we have a secondary one, which I won't go into the details now, but that typically arises based on the imbalanced nature of our childhood. But we're born with a strong leaning in one direction. And if I may just go on for a little bit longer, the evolutionary stable ratio, essentially evolution understood that these four aspects of the human psyche needed to be expressed very strongly by significant percentages of the community, the village, the nation, and ultimately the species. It's not three, it's not 5, 6, or 7, it's 4. And we would not exist as a species if it was only 3 or 2. But there isn't 5. That's not necessary. So the human operating system is clearly observable that there's 4 aspects of us. And it's very observable that we're born with a strong leaning into one of them. But the thing that is most fascinating for those of you that are listening is that our archetypal nature is, here's the understatement of our podcast today. The understatement of the day is that our archetypal nature shapes the absolute totality of our worldview, paradigm, perspective, and life experience. That is the understatement of the day. It is the absolute total. If you can imagine interviewing a fish in the middle of the Pacific and try and tell them about the Atlantic. What? There is only this. This is the universe I swim in. Oh, no, there's 5 universes. There are 5 oceans on Earth. And there are 4 oceans of the human psyche. But everyone's totally convinced that there is only the one they know. and that all humans must operate the way they see the world, because there is no other ocean than the one I swim in, and no humans are aware of any other oceans. So if people start behaving in ways that are discordant with the only ocean that humans should swim in, then they are bad and wrong. And they must be doing it on purpose, and they should know better. Whether you're a business leader, manager, an employee, a wife, a husband, a child, doesn't matter, a client, doesn't matter. So in summary then, before I hand back to you, not understanding these 4 operating systems is to risk being confused and annoyed, to misinterpret the behavior and communications of 75% of the human race. And that could be the difference between winning at business and losing at business. Hiring the wrong person, hiring the right person, putting them in the wrong role, offending prospects when they walk into meetings to discuss whether you are the right provider for them, or losing important clients because you're not speaking to them the way their nervous system would like to be spoken to, which is very common. So yeah.
Interesting.
Very good. Very good. Very good. I suppose kind of, well, just off the back of that, I'm now kind of curious as to what, knowing what these 4 archetypes are and how they differ between each other. Are there polar opposites? Are there clashes between these archetypes as well? Let's start with that.
Sure. Well, interestingly, from the very, very beginning, the very first sentence I uttered as I began this 19-year research project, I used animal names. I said to my mentor on that day, like, I am a sheep, you're a wolf. It was literally the first sentence that we started with. So I use animal names, and I use animal names because they are instantly understandable. And as soon as you listen to the characteristics, you don't ever have to remember them because they just make sense. And no disrespect to Myers-Briggs, but you're English, right? Aesop's fables, you must be around my age. They were read throughout my childhood, and I think in England they were very successful. So depending on whether you're familiar with Aesop's fables, he was a slave in around 600 BC who bought his freedom by writing fables. And a fable is a story that articulates aspects of the human psyche with a learning point. That is what a fable is defined as. So he wrote these fabulous fables, and I think there's about 148 of them or something like that that have been attributed to his name. And they're all the lion and the wolf and the lamb, the crow and the fox, the lamb and the lion. It's all in there. And it was Aesop describing the different aspects of the psyche. And I think because I was aware of this as a child, there's 500 references to lamb and sheep in the Bible alone, and about 40 references to wolves. So these animal names are deep in our psyche because these are mammals, as are we, and we are reflected in them and they are reflected in us. So we have a common thread through, I think genealogy is the right word. I apologize if I got that word wrong. So here are the 4 animals. Aesop used the lion, the wolf, the lamb, and the fox, amongst others. I didn't like lion. To me, it was the gorilla, because the gorilla is a leaf-eating pacifist, but don't mess with them, because they're in charge and they will control you. They will control the situation. Then they don't find things particularly funny. They're a little grumpy. So the gorilla is one of the 2 external world-focused archetypes. 2 of them care about the external world, and 2 of them care about the internal experience of humans.
Got it.
It makes sense that half of the psyche would be interested in the external world and half would be interested in our internal experience.
Right.
Because we have both an internal and an external world experience. So gorillas are future focused. They care about the plan. They want to make plans. They wake up in the morning thinking about plans and what needs to be done. They like to delegate. They like to come up with plans, decide the actions that other people should take inside that plan, and then tell people what they should do. And it comes naturally to them. They see issues coming down the path before anybody else in the village. And they care about the whole village. They care about the group. Two of the archetypes care about the group first, and two of them care about the self first. So the gorillas are external world focused. They care about the group. They look into the future. They love details, planning, to-do lists, and action plans. And their big question is when? When's this going to happen? When can I count on you to do this? When is this going to arrive? When do we need to get the boarding passes? When does the train leave? Because they like planning. So that's the gorillas. And they like to be in charge.
And they're like, in a way, right? They're like analysts in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They care about the details.
Yep.
They can't relax until the details have been attended to. So they can relax and laugh and have fun at the end of the evening when the dinner party has gone smoothly and everybody sat in the right places and the food came out at the right temperature. Then they can relax.
Got it.
But not first.
Perfect.
Second are the wolves. They are also external world, whereas gorillas care about the integrity of systems and the workability of life and systems. Wolves care about the integrity of people and the workability of people. They are the bouncers of human history. They have been at the gate of the village and marching the perimeter of the village, ready for instant access to violence and aggression and heat and volume and anger. Because if you're watching the gate and suddenly a murderous thug and his mates approach the gate, you've got to be able to switch from chilling with your buddy to instant access to aggression. Wolves are the best salesmen because wolves care about, they want to be on missions. What doesn't matter what the mission is. Digging a ditch, fixing a gate, packing up boxes, cleaning the car, doesn't matter. But they don't like a morning where there's nothing to do. That's just annoying. They want missions, a whole list of them. And they have a permanent mission, which is keeping the innocent safe. I am referring to benevolent wolves in this instance, okay?
Okay.
Benevolent wolves are constantly aware of keeping the innocent safe. It's their 24/7 mission.
Perfect.
So for that reason, they care about dealing with issues first, long before they want to relax or cuddle. Because if you're messing with their missions, you're the problem. They're going to tell you. No hesitation. Because emotions don't matter to wolves too much. The mission's much more important than whether you feel like you've been mistreated a little bit and whether you need to have a little lie down to recover. So those are wolves. Wolves like conflict. They don't have a problem with conflict, arguing, raising voices. Then they know where they stand. Wolves aren't mind readers. The third is the foxes. And the foxes are the first of the two internal archetypes. Whereas gorillas care about the external world experience that people have, arriving at an airport, at signs, walkways, designing an airport as an example. Foxes care about your internal world experience. They are the creatives, the musicians, the artists, the poets, the architects, the foodies. They want you to have an internal experience at a gig, right? A music concert or eating a dessert. They want to give you an experience that you talk about forever. You think about a great music concert you went to 3 years back now, probably 20 years ago, maybe, that you still talk about. It was so epic. Okay, that's what the fox world wants. That's a life well lived for a fox, that they gave one night where people still talk about. That's enough of a life for a fox. It's that important to create experiences. So foxes want to live in the moment. They want to live in the moment and not be in the future or in their thoughts so they can access creativity and intuition. Because foxes are the gatekeepers of two things. Freedom. Freedom is the most important thing to a fox. They don't like being told what to do. And the second thing is wonder. Foxes want to create wonder and they want to protect freedom. And they find anything that goes against those two values abhorrent. Which is a polite way of saying they will refuse to participate in any venture where there is a loss of freedom.
Love that. Sounds like me.
So comedy is really important to foxes. The best comedians in the world are fox wolves. So what else to say about foxes? They don't like being criticized. They don't like being told what to do or how to do it or when to do it. They love being given problems to solve, but they like being left alone to solve them. Foxes find it difficult to commit to things that aren't important, and they typically do things lastminute.com because deadlines are the motivating factor for a creative person to get something done. And the fourth then is the sheep, the gentlefolk. Why sheep? Because they don't have a bark or claws or fangs or a roar, and they don't even have horns, and not the female sheep, so to speak. They have big, warm, fluffy coats. So anytime sheep get upset, they turn away and move away from the source of their displeasure. So sheep care about the interconnectivity in the village. They care about the emotional well-being of everybody, whereas wolves care about the physical well-being, the physical safety, the physical protection. Sheep care about the emotional well-being, emotional protection, and emotional safety of everybody in the village. And they're very sensitive to the emotional states of everybody around. And if anybody in their village or community or around their dining table is emotionally struggling, then they will also emotionally struggle with them, because they are wired to empathically feel the distress of others. Because there is no village, there is no heart of the village if everybody in the heart of the village does not care about anyone else's emotions. So the people that the wolves are willing to die for have emotional considerations for each other. So it makes sense then that for the species to survive, there is, and you look at it throughout, this is a mammalian thing, just so we're clear. I don't talk about animals beyond saying that all of these archetypes exist in horses and dogs and other mammals. But I don't speak about them in any more detail than just that.
Sure. Makes complete sense.
So in summary, mammals have been evolving for 200 to 250 million years. And we have had some big prefrontal cortex explosion, whenever that was. And we are now the most aware animals on this blue marble hurtling through space. We've claimed this planet as our own. We're in charge. And our psyches have evolved for a couple of 100 million years to get to this point in our evolution. And there's 4 aspects of mammals, as I've just described.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take this opportunity to make you aware of a brand new tool that we've just created called the Exit Readiness Assessment. Now, it is for founders and CEOs that are looking to exit from their business operations. Now, it doesn't matter even if you're not looking to exit right now, I would highly recommend to go and take the assessment straight away. It helps you to identify areas in your business that you need to work on to help you towards that exit strategy. And at the end of it, you get a personalized report on some of the areas that you're doing particularly well in and some of the areas that you need to make some improvements to. Make sure you head over to readytoexit.scoreapp.com. That's readytoexit.scoreapp.com. Enjoy. So I guess then the multi-million-dollar question would be is, because each archetype is different, but then where does it stem from? Does it stem from childhood experiences? Over what time period? Is it genetics? Where does the predominant archetype develop? Or is it a set period of time, or is it just passed down from generations?
Bloody fantastic question. So I don't fully know because it's still a mystery. But I can give you some data that I've gathered. So I've worked with multiple identical twins, and I've worked with a lady that had identical triplet boys in their early 20s. So they have the same genes that we understand. And again, I'm not a genealogist, if that's the correct word. Second time I've struggled for that word today. But they have the same genes. They look the same culture, same church, same congregation, same village, same country, but they're not the same archetypally.
Okay.
That's fascinating. Here's the other thing that I like to talk about. If you went to the Apple store and got the technical equipment to take apart the iPhone, and you went looking for the operating system, you wouldn't find it. It's in there, Adam, but you can't find it, and
True.
You can't see it. In a similar way, in the medical world, the language around autopsies and death and cause of death, it's very serious language. It's not a joke, because people will go to prison for life, depending on the findings of autopsies. It's a legal document. There is no autopsy in human history that ever says, we conducted the autopsy on this human and we found that their archetypal nature was this. It's not there. It's there, but it's not there.
Sure.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Now, let me take it one step further. What percentage of your iPhone operating system is attempting to figure out the operating system of a Linux phone or an Android phone?
I have no clue.
It's zero. It's zero, right? The Apple operating system is just running the iPhone.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. It makes sense now that you've thought it through. So the operating system has no interest in figuring out any other operating system.
Yeah.
And the operating system has no interest in explaining itself. Its sole and only function is to run the system.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any code to reveal itself. It doesn't have any code to explain itself. It doesn't have any code to understand any other operating systems.
Mm-hmm.
Its only interest is running the system that it's running, whether it's an iPhone or a fox human or a wolf human or a gorilla human, etc. So I don't think it's in the genes. I don't think it's in our DNA. I think it's something else.
Fine. Interesting question. And I guess that, well, even though you've been doing this for, 19 years plus, I guess, in this domain, I guess the rest of your time and if you decide to continue to pursue down this path, that I guess that would be one of your main missions to see if we can find out any links in that, I guess.
At the right time, I'll no doubt bump into the perfect person that will explain their life's work, that will fill in the blanks here. Fortunately, it's not a critical piece of information, but it is very fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Once you understand that. Well, what's super fascinating, this amazing lady that I worked with the triplet boys, she said at one point, I have every single book on racing boys. If I don't have it, it doesn't exist. She bought every single one she could get her hands on. Not a single one of them explained the operating systems that I explained to her in the first 2 hours of meeting her. Not a single one of them. And these books are written by very committed, mostly men, very committed people to help parents raise boys.
But they're normally like...
Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them explained what I've just explained to your audience in the last 10 minutes.
But would you say that the reason why that is because there's this ideology of it's basically generally it's not very subjective, it's very opinionated. It's just an ideology of what we believe, the way that we bring up boys and understand, you know what I mean, and the opposite sex. So
I do. But the answer is, I've already given the answer, which is what I said was the understatement of the day, which is our archetypal nature is the absolute totality of our worldview and paradigms. And we don't even conceive that there's another ocean, that there's another operating system. So all books are written by people biased through their operating system.
yes.
So what's fascinating, for example, is I would probably say that between 95 and 99.9% of all books, articles, and material about relationships is written by sheep.
I love it.
Now that's a problem.
That's a big problem. We need more gorillas and wolves, people. Love that. With regards to the animals for context, are you saying that a lot of human beings generally fall under, if we take 100%, for example, I may make up, say, 50% of a gorilla with a little bit, 20%, say, a fox, etc. Does that make sense? So you've got like this overall context of I'm more predominantly wolf / fox. Have you found that is generally what the case is?
Yes, it's exactly that.
Okay.
So I didn't quite answer the second part of your question a moment ago. So our primary archetype, I believe, is assigned before birth.
Okay.
And I'm yet to prove whether it's in our DNA and our genes or not. We are then influenced by the most imbalanced energy in our childhood. If the imbalanced energy of our child, so each of the 4 archetypes has an expression of imbalanced energy.
Mm-hmm.
So in the gorilla realm, the imbalanced energy is controlling, dictatorial, demanding, and tyrannical. So in other words, in short, tyranny is that aspect of the imbalanced aspect of that aspect of our psyche. In the wolf domain, it's the bully, the sadist, and the tormentor, the dominator, essentially. So in one word, the bully energy is in that realm. The fox realm, the imbalanced energy of that is the manipulator, the slippery, lying, deceptive, con man type, gaslighting type energy. In its imbalanced form, very chaotic, very unreliable, very inconsistent. The imbalanced energy of the sheep is the passive, aggressive, victim, manipulator. The manipulator is the sheep fox, but very much this passive bystander. They allow and tolerate, they essentially tolerate abuse by being incapable of addressing it. For example, each of the four archetypes has its imbalanced expression.
Yes.
Immature expression. So if you're a child, for example, if you were born a sheep or a wolf, and the predominant energy of the childhood home was very imbalanced fox, chaotic, inconsistent, unreliable, dishonest.
Yeah.
What rises up is gorilla urges, because the gorilla realm is the opposite realm of the fox. It's the realm that wants to create order and consistency and reliability. It wants to create systems and workability. So that these urges naturally rise up inside us when we're children, depending on the extent and nature of the imbalanced energy of our childhood. And what's beautiful about archetypal relationships as a body of knowledge is you don't really need to go into any deep analytics about your childhood. You just have to answer one question. What was the imbalanced energy of your childhood? Maybe it was a very wolfy home. Maybe emotions weren't particularly respected. Maybe there was raised voices. Maybe there was banging of fists on tables. And then the sheepy nature is the antidote to that. So then people become more sheepy unless you're a wolf cub, then you kind of join in because it kind of feels normal.
Yeah.
But to a non-wolf, those environments feel very unsafe.
Yeah. That makes
You go around the houses, you're born in a very controlling, tyrannical, obsessive helicopter parenting kind of place where you don't get to choose your clothes. You eat what you're told, and you will wear these clothes, and you will do this, and you can't listen to that music, and your life is controlled. Well, what rises up is foxiness. Yeah. You have to lie to tyrants, otherwise you feel like you're going to die. So foxes are very quick-witted, they're very cunning, and foxes are defensive. They will make excuses, and the excuses just come out of their mouths before they've even formed the sentence. That's how good they are at it. Because you have to become very adept at sidestepping accusations from tyrants. Did you do that? No, Billy did it. No, I ate chicken for lunch. Did you get my text? You didn't get my text. I've got to go. Suddenly it's gone. And the tyrants say, I don't know what happened then, but I'm sure I was right about something. It's too late now. The foxes won. They've gone.
Yeah. So
there is an interplay between these archetypal natures. In a balanced form, it's the origin of a high-performing team.
Yeah.
In an imbalanced form, which the word toxic is the word of our generation, in an immature and imbalanced form, toxic environments arise in homes and boardrooms. The person in the family home or the boardroom that understands this has a staggering advantage for the rest of their lives, because one of the other thing that's interesting about this current step in the evolution of the human psyche is that it seems that being offended is some kind of badge of honor. My research into maturation and eldership concluded quite some time ago that the elder becomes less and less offendable over time. It's the opposite. It's not a badge of honor at all. It's a sign of weakness that you're ill prepared for someone's outburst or behavior or communication, that you're not emotionally and psychologically ready to handle the movements of humans. So when people understand this, it's a huge advantage, because you become less offendable by your boss when they do their thing that you actually know they were going to do. When the owner of the company waddles in and makes an inappropriate demand, or whatever. Your eldest child comes back from school and expresses something, but you're not surprised by it because you understand that these four aspects of the human psyche exist. Doesn't matter whether you like it or not, but they exist. And the more you understand them, the more powerful you become in navigating your life and relationships.
Fascinating. It really is. I want to kind of go back to thinking about some of our listeners. In fact, I'm thinking about myself here. I'm going to kind of be a bit selfish here. But founders, CEOs, people that are listening in, a lot of them are running their businesses, small, medium, whatever it might be, or making decisions. A lot of them really kind of lead with instinct, if that makes sense, or kind of intuition, if you want to call it that. How can knowing your dominant archetype help them become more conscious-led leaders, if that makes sense?
I think an interesting thing to point out is that more often than not, the origin of a business idea is going to come from a fox, wolf, fox, sheep, creative spark.
Yeah.
And it's summed up perfectly in Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, which I'm sure many of our listeners have read today. The story of the amazing pie maker being encouraged to make a pie making business and not knowing the first thing about running a pie making business.
Yep.
That's Genesis of the story, right? So a lot of businesses, the spark of the origin is a foxy creative spark. But the function of running a business is much more the guerrilla realm. Systems.
Yeah.
Consistency. Protocols. Processes. Invoicing. Management accounts. Submitting forms. Regulatory checks. It's very much, businesses are run ideally. Head of operations is a gorilla, not a fox. The CEO ideally is a gorilla. So just to start, not ideally, that's a bit absolute. I'm not very keen on absolute, so I might take that back. But more often than not, you want that very left brain, future-focused, didactic, process-driven brain to be running the business. And I just want to point that out because often foxes end up becoming the CEOs of their own project.
Yes.
And that may not be ideal because a sort of a metaphor would be, we're going to sail, my friend Peter rowed across the Atlantic at the end of last year. Herculean effort. I don't have any plans to do it, but it sounded like fun. But you have to be on course all the time, right? So van life and lastminute.com is the world of the foxes. No real map, no real plan. We're just going to go with the wind and go to whatever place we want to go to on the map. But to win at business, you need a long-term vision, direction, strategy with well-coordinated GPS settings.
Yes.
Milestones. You need to calculate budgets and how much fuel you need. And when you're going to fill up on fuel, you can get with the metaphor. If you're wishy-washy, go nowhere.
True. I agree.
There's a famous line, which I think I came up with, which is the wastelands of failed businesses are filled with people that didn't attend to the details. This is a long-winded answer to your question, but the more a business owner or business leader understands what I'm talking about here today, the better able they are to recognize their natural inclinations.
Yeah.
So gorillas wake up in the morning and think about the plan effortlessly. So I ask this question of my clients regularly, and I work with large groups of people regularly from all over the world. And they come together and the programs work incredibly well because I get the different archetypes talking and revealing themselves, and it works incredibly well. I often ask people a question: if I took away all responsibility, took away parenting, we should wave a magic wand, you had all your money taken care of, and you had 30 days where you answered to nobody, what would you wake up and think about on day one?
Good question.
And the four archetypes come up with different answers.
Mm-hmm.
The foxes want to go on adventures. They want to go and chase experience. The inner hedonist rises up inside them. Sheep, they want to travel the world and find the people that they've previously cared about and connect with them.
Like
They
a
want to go
truck.
and have meals and dinners. They want to reconnect with the people they love.
Beautiful.
Always want to get on a mission. Doesn't matter what the mission is. Doesn't matter. But they want to be on a mission. It might be a camping mission. It might be a mission into the wilderness, but they want to be on a mission.
Got it.
And gorillas start making plans. They've got 30 days to get ahead. Deep down, if they could, they'd go and clean out all the closets. They'd go and deep clean the house and get everything punctual. They'd take care of all of their accounts. They would get ahead of everything on their to-do list, and then they might spend a few days on holiday at the end. Because each of these archetypal natures is governed by different operating systems, different governing forces.
Yeah.
So if you have a sheep running a business, they're going to be more concerned about everybody liking them and being happy than making money.
And that's difficult, especially if you are a sheep.
Yeah.
Trying to make them, without making money is no business, my friends.
They run out of oxygen.
Absolutely. Have you, I was going to say to you, you know, you mentioned just earlier on, I mean, you work with numerous clients. Just by simply understanding certain archetypes, or should we say, certain archetypes, have you seen like how it's helped a founder or a CEO, maybe that because they have this understanding of archetypes, that they've gone in and they're like, yes, I need to reassign people in the team because it's not working? Because I'm sure you've come across this quite a lot. Can you give us maybe a case study or someone that you've worked with?
Yeah. I worked with this fabulous lady not too long ago, end of last year. She's a lawyer.
Yes.
She came across my work and she did a 4-hour workshop with me, and it just completely blew her mind. And she went back to her company. She realized she got everybody in her company, all of her 6 employees, to do my quiz.
Beautiful.
archetypalrelationships.com/quiz. And then they got stickers and put them on their computer screens so everybody could visualize and remember what their archetypal nature is. And then she realized that 2 of them were in the wrong roles. There was a gorilla doing a fox job and there was a fox doing a gorilla job, and she switched them both. And instantly the experience of the team jumped 20 points. Everyone was so much happier because they were in the right place.
Beautiful.
But then she took it one step further and she changed the way she did discovery calls and meetings with new prospects. Instead of delivering them the way she wanted to do them, because she's a wolf, she realized that the first thing she had to do was find out the archetypal nature of the prospect. So she borrowed a few of the questions from my quiz, and she said, I hope you don't mind. I said, I don't mind at all. And she turned the discovery session into discovering what their archetypal nature is.
Mm.
And she then, in their tracking system, she's got that recorded. So if a client calls up, everybody knows this person's a wolf. Okay, so wolves prefer things to be blunt, direct, straight to the point, and then they might socialize with you afterwards.
Got it.
If it's a sheep, you've got to connect with them first. You got to connect with them. How are you? How's your mum? Did you go? How was that holiday? You've got to connect with them first, because once a sheep feels connected, then they can get down to business. If it's a fox, typically, not always, but typically, they need to know that you're lighthearted and that you can laugh. Foxes don't like to do business with anyone that they don't think can laugh.
Yeah.
Because humor is such a vital aspect of life. Because it means if you laugh, it means you can experience joy.
Yes.
It's a precursor to joy, and joy is in the realm of wonder. So her client acquisitions jumped very quickly. She said she couldn't believe how effective it was because she started talking to them the way their nervous system wants to be spoken to. Then what happened is client retention went up. She stopped losing clients because every time a client called in for an update, she used to give them a wolf update. And that doesn't work for everyone. So now she gives people updates according to their nervous system. So client retention's gone through the roof, client acquisition's gone up, and that her team is happier. And she had a whole bunch of personal success stories that I won't mention here. But everything in her personal life improved with her husband, starting a family, health, sleep.
Beautiful. Has a massive knock-on effect.
The ripple effect is enormous, yeah. But I think from a business perspective, making sure people are in the right position is huge. The no disrespect to some of the other personality profiling. The problem with them, and I won't mention them, but if you're in business, you've probably heard of them. The problem with them is that they're static and they're two-dimensional.
Yes.
So they have initial value, but under stress, under pressure, and in real life, they fall down because they don't have enough. They're not dynamic enough. They're not three-dimensional enough. Archetypal wisdom, as I call it, the underlying body of knowledge that I discovered, it is dynamic and three-dimensional. So I'll give you a quick story. I worked with a guy who was a pediatric surgeon. He had a PhD in pediatrics, I think. PhD in something, and he was a pediatric surgeon. Incredibly bright, committed, 29-year-old, I think.
Wow.
And he came to me. He was recommended to me, and he was like, "I've been recommended to you." I said, "Tell me what's going on." He said, "I don't understand something." He said, "When I'm at home, I behave like this, and when I go to work, I behave like this, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And I think I'm bipolar." I'm like, "You're not bipolar." So I explained it to him. His girlfriend was a bristling wolf. So at home, he started showing up sheepy, because that's the antidote to bristling wolf.
Makes sense.
But at work, his boss was a high-level gorilla tyrant. So he was showing up like a fox at work, and then going home, and then going back to work, then going home, and feeling this pull, push, pull, push, pull. So I explained the whole thing to him. He just sat there slack-jawed, like that explains the last 5 years of my life. Like, I've been struggling for 5 years. I don't understand what's going on, because he's a grounded, balanced, decent human being trying to do a good thing in the world, and he wants to do right by his boss and do right by his girlfriend, and he wants to do right by the world. But if you're in a static two-dimensional map, it falls down. There's dynamic forces that move him. Yeah. So I got my diagram out and I explained the whole thing to him inside a couple of hours, and he did one of my programs and squared away. He's like, I remember him saying, "There's not a chance I'd have figured this out. Zero chance I'd have made sense of what's going on." Because you've been trying for 5 years to make sense of it. Couldn't figure it out at all.
It's interesting you brought that up, because I think it's quite a common thing where, I guess, if we take someone that, like you just explained, whether they run their business or whether they're an employee is irrelevant, but the fact that they choose two different types of personalities. And do you think that's mainly because they have this, I don't know, ideology of how one should behave in a workplace versus a home life? Again, I don't know, what's your opinion about this, but I do feel, I mean, this is definitely very, very common. And if you've got your, what I call antennas on, sometimes it can be extremely, like, for example, I'll use my wife as an example. When she used to go to the office, because she's in banking, she's using more of a masculine energy and kind of like, but then when she comes home, sometimes what I find is that she'll use that same energy, but it doesn't work in the home life. So then there'll be a clash. But then what you're saying, which is kind of similar, where people are using two different archetypes, and again, there's a clash. So it's interesting how we're sharing, your client who is sharing an experience, I'm sharing my experiences. And I suppose it's also about self-awareness, isn't it? And how does one become self-aware of these archetypes? How can we turn these antennas on?
Well, here's the good news. Good news is it's not complicated.
No, okay.
I never needed to be the smartest kid in class to figure this out. I wasn't the smartest kid in the class. It was just a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I was like, full respect to Jordan Peterson with his staggering IQ and his extraordinary vocabulary, and I was wittering on about this with that vocabulary, it's sort of like difficult to understand. No, yes. I'm saying, hey, Adam, you might be being a bit foxy. And that's all it takes to explain the whole situation that's going on. Like, I'm feeling a bit sheepy. And that's like everybody in the room understands what's going on. It's not complicated.
That makes sense.
Sometimes we are the same archetype at home as we are at work.
Yes.
Sometimes for vocational and professional reasons or training or just the environment of work, we operate in a different mindset, a different nature than who we are when we come home. Your example is perfect. It doesn't work. So often when people are wolfy at work and they don't transition back to home, or they are very officious at work and they come back and they're very officious at home, it just does not work. Oh. And it's like, hey, you're being a bit wolfy. Can you take a few deep breaths and can you come back and can you communicate with a bit more gentleness? And that is incredibly powerful when both people understand the language. It's like, hey, you're just being a bit wolfy. I'm finding it difficult to hear. Can we just tone it down? Because I really want to work with you. I really want to figure this out with you. And I love you. Goodness, thank you. Sorry, I didn't, it's the old thing about transitioning from work to home. Like some people, it just is their train journey and they walk in and they can scoop up their kids and get beaten by the dog. Some people need to go upstairs, take off their suit, have a shower, and then they'll come down and scoop up the kids and the dog, etc., etc.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that transition is interesting. But I call archetypal wisdom the elusive obvious on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you understand it, it's so breathtakingly obvious, you can't believe you couldn't see it before because it's everywhere. And you don't have to be smart. Like the first thing I like to tell people, as I did today, is archetype is a technical word for the human operating system. And we all have a smartphone, typically. So we all understand that there's an operating system. We all understand it's invisible. You can't see it. You can't find it. It has no language. It's not attempting to explain itself or reveal itself or figure out any other operating system. Its sole interest in life is running its own operating system. And that's us.
Love it. Some very interesting points. I want to, because I am conscious of time, but they're saying that I want to share. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 11 years old, basically. Long time, right? And for many years, I actually wrote about this on LinkedIn, a piece of content about the fact that for many, 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 many years, I wore all the hats, made all the decisions, firefighting, kind of basically I was the bottleneck in the business. That's what prevented me from growing. Now, I think this is going to very much relate to some of our listeners, but if instead of trying to be everything, do everything, as most entrepreneurs or CEOs or founders do, if you could pinpoint one natural talent from each archetype that we could lean more into, what would be that particular talent that we should nurture more?
I love the question. I think I'm going to answer it in a slightly different way and say one of the most powerful things anyone can do that is responsible for anything, whether you're running your family home or you're running a business, is to understand the underlying invisible agenda of all four of these operating systems.
Okay.
And then once you understand the agenda, you understand what their waking thought is. Because once you understand the waking thought of a person, you understand what matters to them. Once you understand the agenda, you understand what matters to them. And then you very quickly understand how they like to be spoken to. And you understand what kind of things they're very good at. So, for example, if you give a gorilla a bunch of things that need to be done, they will get straight to them.
Yeah.
Because the gorilla psyche is, why do tomorrow what you can do today? If we get it done today, we're going to be more resourceful for any unforeseen problems arising tomorrow. The fox psyche is like, why do today what you can do tomorrow? Let's have more wonder in this moment, and we'll get to that when the deadline arises. And she would like to wake up every morning, and in the space between sleeping and awake, for an hour, they would like to lie in the arms of someone that loves them and just gently have their forehead kissed for about an hour. And then they'd like to get up, brush their teeth, go to the kitchen, put the kettle on to make a strong cup of English breakfast tea, no doubt, and then have a standing cuddle for the 2 minutes while the kettle is boiling. And then go about their day and have no issues at all. Nobody get cross or upset with them, and then repeat that process on the way back. Another hour in bed in the arms of you. And then just repeat that every day for the rest of life until we die in our sleep. Or I have a friend. Her brother is a wolf, and he travels back from England to Australia, where he's from, every year or two, and he visits his mum on his holiday, and he doesn't spend 2 weeks at the beach drinking margaritas, going to clubs. He makes a list of missions: fixing gates, pulling the fridge out, cleaning behind the fridge, going into the loft, fixing the backyard, mowing, dealing with people that may not be providing the right service. And he just gets on missions. That's his holiday. He's thrilled. Now I'm like, great beach vibes, drinks around the pool with great music and a DJ. That sounds like a great holiday to me, So everyone's to their own. Now, let me try and land the plane. Once you understand the underlying agenda, you understand what people are good at and how to get the best out of them. Because if you're a foxy, creative person running the business, then there's a very good chance you're going to become the bottleneck. You are already the bottleneck, because foxes typically don't get things done until they have to. So in an ideal world, you find a guerrilla wolf who has ambition and detail. And they work for you to bring about your vision the way you'd like it to be brought about, because they won't waste any time. And they won't talk around difficult conversations. If somebody's repeatedly late and they're slacking, they're going to tell them straight away, hey, third time, what's going on? Whereas the bottlenecks may avoid that difficult conversation. May guarantee them that. And just making sure your team is in the right place. I spoke with a client once, and he came in and he was like, why when I go into meetings, do I tell people what they want? They say they're going to do it, but then they don't do it. Explain it. I said, I'll explain it to you, no problem. Because they can't bear the idea of you not liking them or being upset with them. So they're going to say whatever it takes because you're very intense.
Yes.
And they just want to make sure you don't yell at them. Because they feel like that's the most important thing in that moment. If you go in them or speak to someone at a time and convince them that you're not going to yell, and ask them what they're up to, and tell them this is what you want, and you ask them for their help in a way where they don't feel threatened, then they'll give you a true yes. It's like, what do you mean a false yes? Like, because they're more afraid of you in that moment than you later. It's like, this is crazy. Does that make any sense? I'm like, yeah, you don't understand. They need to be liked more than anything. Plus, he wasn't giving them choice. You have to give people choice. You have to give foxes choice.
Yes.
If you don't give foxes choice, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
You've already lost.
You already lost. Yeah. Makes complete sense.
I'll tell you a quick story about giving foxes choice. We had a client from northern Sweden or Denmark, I think it was Sweden. Anyway, so for a good 9 months of the year, you have to leave the house with your coats on, and your children should leave the house with their coats on, because then you're a good parent, right? Anyway, he had a 4-year-old daughter. For 2 years, him and his wife had been struggling to get out of the house because the daughter's not putting the coat on. And it's like properly cold outside, right? Yeah. So my colleague Daniel said, you're not giving your fox cub choice. He goes, what do you mean choice? You've got to put the coat on. It's not a choice. How about this? Left sleeve or right sleeve? What? Just ask her if she'd like to put her left sleeve on first or her right sleeve on first. So he comes back 2 weeks later. He's like, you're not going to believe this. We get straight out of the house now. Because now it's fun and it's choice. He said, I've been battling misery in my front porch for 2 years, trying to leave the house with my fox cub daughter. Now we understand she's a fox cub. And I wasn't giving her choice. And now the whole family leaves the house with joy. For the one thing, give the fox choice. And it's the same in business. It's like, if you have a fox that's important, then you say, hey, look, I need this report. Can you get it to me by 3, or do you want to get it to me by 5?
Yeah.
That's fine. Because there's freedom and choice. If you say, I need it by 5, it's so difficult for them.
Stress.
It's embarrassing, but it's true.
That's a great metaphor or a story. I love that. I think that's great. One final thing before we kind of wrap up. Now you rightly pointed out that a lot of entrepreneurs in particular tend to be more kind of guerrilla orientated archetypes. That's what you kind of mentioned.
Sorry to interrupt. The originating sparks are typically foxy creatives because they come up with the idea. They're the ones that are going on to Shark Tank. It's the gorillas that are very good at running the idea.
That's right. Yeah, I mentioned.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, you're all good. No, thanks for the context. But I was going to say to you, one of the big challenges for a lot of our listeners in here that are trying to work out how to effectively exit from their business operations. How does helping each archetype really help speed things up in terms of being able to exit a business and understanding where each person's role is in terms of making that transition much more smoother for them? Any thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think if I was in that position and I was attempting to present my business for sale, one of the aspects of that presentation would be a deep understanding of each of the critical people in the team, what their roles are, and why they are ideal for the role. And I would add references to information such as this, whether it's the DISC model or whether it's some other thing, or ideally this is the truth because we have a deeper understanding.
Yes.
Because that shows a deep understanding of the natural talents and abilities of the team members in the role that they're in. Like the simple headline is this: the managers and the operations managers, they're the gorillas.
Yeah.
Sales is the wolves because they can take no. They're not offended by no. They don't care about rejection. R&D, creative design, that's all the foxes. HR, clients, customer services, those are the sheep.
Yeah.
And that's the village. That's the whole village expressed in business.
Mm.
I heard a story the other day about a Japanese company that was a massive company. And the founder was a sheep, but he was smart enough to employ all the right people to do it. And then eventually they got rid of the founder and the heart left the company. The company shrank by 90% within 5 years.
Wow.
Because the heart of the company had gone. He was the reason that people wanted to be there as a sole mission rather than a paycheck. And once he left, it's like the mother figure of a family, in as dreadful as it sounds, not being in the family anymore. It's like the heart goes and the family cannot be the same ever again, which is tragic. So I think my answer to your question would be the ability to articulate why Barry is in the right job and why Sheila is in the right job and what they bring as a function of their natural talents and abilities. I know if I was interested in buying your business, that would impress me a huge amount because it shows a depth of understanding that is about legacy.
Yes. Love that. I'm glad we've had this conversation because I think I think it's fascinating personally. We've covered a lot of groundwork. We've covered a lot in the last almost 60 minutes. In summary, if you could summarize our conversation, short, succinct, and concisely, what would be the end or conclusion to our conversation?
I would say that I've been searching for the information that actually makes a difference for 39 years. Archetypal wisdom is the most powerful body of knowledge I've ever discovered. I'm personally dedicating the rest of my life to sharing it with people. If any of you are listening to this and any part of this conversation has tweaked your interest, act, take action, reach out to me. Let me know that you heard this podcast, reference this podcast, reach out to me and come and learn more about archetypal wisdom because it will improve absolutely every part of your life, every day for the rest of your life. This is the smell from the kitchen. We haven't even bought the entrees out. Like, really?
Love that.
It's breathtaking. So whether you're a parent, a business owner, husband, wife, family man, woman, if you want to deeply better understand the people that matter to you the most. Have you ever read the Grant study, the longitudinal study on health and happiness and fulfillment out of Harvard, 87-year study? The number one finding is healthy relationships. And they reference it again in finding number 6 when they talk about career success. Career success is important. It's number 6 on the list. But I'm still going to tell you that number 1 is relationships inside the career and the career success finding number 6.
Love it. I did not know that, by the way.
Yeah.
Love it.
The number 1 path to happiness and fulfillment is becoming functional and effective in your personal relationships, both at work and at home.
Beautiful. Well, listen, guys, this has been a fascinating conversation. It really has. First of all, Rory, thanks so much. This has been a great conversation, and we've had a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, I've loved it.
It's been
Absolutely loved it.
Been really fascinating. And Paul, thanks so much for the intro. Give a shout out to Paul again. For you guys that are, I guess, curious about Rory's work in this domain, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the details of how you can get in contact with Rory in the show description notes. But also, Rory has mentioned a quiz as well that you can go and take the quiz and understand more about your archetype and how that kind of correlates to relationships in the home, in the work, how you lead, etc. So that's a really good starting block, or a starting point, should we say, from that. So this has been great for you guys. If this is the first time that you're listening in, first of all, congratulations. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please do me a favor, if you have enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever podcast channel you are listening to. Subscribe, follow, leave a review. Even if it's a 1-star review, I don't really care. Feedback is crucial. We always love the reviews. And second of all, big announcement as well. We also have a big announcement coming very, very shortly. Watch this space and see what happens. But it's for you guys. We're going to be launching a new accelerator. But I will let you know more about that on my social media channels and also on the podcast. So listen, Rory, thank you so much for being here and spending a bit of time with us. I really greatly appreciate your time today. And for you guys that are listening in, hopefully we'll see you again soon. Or over on YouTube, of course, and speak to you soon. Take care, and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.